What if I told you Ferrari's legendary Schumacher era didn't start with dominance? It started with a problem they couldn't admit they had. Because in the late 90s, Ferrari wasn't missing passion. They had plenty of that. They were missing something far more brutal, a modern engine philosophy. Not a more horsepower problem, a personality problem. Their early V10s were fast, but nervous, sharp, spiky, sometimes fragile. And every time Ferrari tried to fix it the old Ferrari way, by just squeezing harder, they made the car faster, but harder to drive, harder to trust, and harder to win championships with. And then Schumacher shows up with a completely different mindset. He doesn't ask for a motor that's wild. He asks for a motor that's usable. A motor that lets him attack, lap after lap, without guessing what it's going to do when he breathes on the throttle. And that simple demand, make it predictable, is what quietly turns Ferrari from a chaotic soap opera into a machine that breaks Formula One for half a decade. Welcome back to Hidden Car Gems, the channel where we talk about cars that make absolutely no sense. And today we're diving into the Ferrari V10s of the Schumacher era, 1996 to 2005, not as a list of engines, but as a decade-long transformation from fast but flawed to unfairly complete. And I'm going to tell it like a story Ferrari fans don't always like hearing. Ferrari didn't win because they found magic. Ferrari won because they stopped being Ferrari about it. Let's rewind. Schumacher arrives. Big paycheck, bigger expectations, and Ferrari has just done something that would have sounded like heresy 10 years earlier. They ditched the V12 for a V10. That first engine, the Tipo 046, was Ferrari stepping into the modern era with shaky legs. It was a 3.0-liter V10 with a 75-degree bank angle, and on paper it was respectable. Around 715 horsepower at about 15,500 RPM. But in Formula One, respectable means you're losing. And Schumacher could feel it immediately. Not just the raw number, he could feel the behavior, the way power arrived, the way the engine responded when he tried to balance the car mid-corner, the way the engine's character affected everything behind his spine, traction, stability, confidence. If you've never driven a race car, here's the simplest way to understand it. A fast engine that you don't trust is slower than a slightly slower engine you can abuse. Ferrari's early V10 wasn't the monster. It was the awkward teenager, powerful enough to get noticed, but not refined enough to win the fight. So Ferrari started evolving, and quickly. 1997 brought an improved version, better reliability, a bit more output, better breathing. Still the same basic architecture, still chasing the leaders, but now Ferrari could actually stay in the conversation. Then 1998 hits, and Ferrari makes a bigger move, the Tipo 047. Now we're looking at an 80-degree V10 with a more aggressive bore and stroke setup. Bigger bore, shorter stroke, because the whole sport is now chasing RPM. Ferrari's output rises into the 790 to 800 horsepower range. Revs climbing beyond 17,000, and the engine is starting to feel like a proper weapon. But here's the twist. This is exactly where Ferrari could have gone down the wrong road. Because when engineers chase peak power, the temptation is always the same. Make it sharper, make it angrier, make it rev higher, and let the driver deal with it. But Schumacher's entire advantage, his superpower, was that he could feel the small stuff. Throttle response, engine braking, how the rear tires react on corner exit, whether the car rotates cleanly or snaps, whether the engine helps the chassis or fights it. So while other teams were busy building engines that looked good on a dyno sheet, Ferrari had a driver basically forcing them to build an engine that looked good on a stopwatch. In 1999, Ferrari refined again with the Tipo 048. Still 80 degrees, still screaming, but lighter over time and better controlled. This is when you start seeing Ferrari's engine department shift from "we can build power" to "we can build power that lasts." And that matters because by the end of the 1990s, Formula One is turning into a reliability war disguised as a horsepower war. The car that finishes is the car that wins, and Ferrari starts finishing a lot. Now we hit 2000, and this is the moment people remember as Ferrari finally did it. But the secret sauce in 2000 isn't just Schumacher, it's the engine layout decision. Ferrari goes to a 90-degree V10 with the Tipo 049. And this is where the engine story stops being more power and becomes better platform, because a wider V angle lets you lower the center of gravity. It changes how the car behaves, it changes packaging, it changes weight distribution, it changes the entire rear of the car, gearbox, suspension pickup points, cooling layout, bodywork shape. That 90-degree move isn't just engineering trivia, it's Ferrari saying, we're building the whole car around a better foundation. The Tipo 049 is around the 805 horsepower mark, revving into the 17,000s, and now Ferrari has something that feels planted, stable, and repeatable. And that's how championships are really built, repeatability. Then comes 2001, and Ferrari drops the Tipo 050. This is where Ferrari starts doing the scary thing, taking weight out without breaking the engine. The Tipo 050 is a major evolution. New casting approaches, lighter construction, and around 825 horsepower in race trim, pushing toward 900 in qualifying, revs creeping higher, response improving, and the engine isn't just surviving, it's becoming a tool Schumacher can lean on. And here's where Ferrari's mindset becomes very un-Ferrari. They stop chasing headlines, they chase consistency, because in the early 2000s, everybody has power. BMW is out here chasing the highest revs on earth, Mercedes is hunting, Honda is coming, Renault is reinventing, but Ferrari is quietly perfecting the full package, which brings us to 2002, and the engine that's basically the turning point of the entire decade, the Tipo 051. This engine is where Ferrari stops feeling like a team that might win a title, and starts feeling like a team you can't touch unless something goes wrong. The 051 is still a 90-degree 3.0-liter V10, but it's compact, lower in the car, heavily refined, and built with the kind of obsessive attention to friction and efficiency that sounds boring, until you realize it's what makes an engine survive 18,000 RPM without eating itself. Power is roughly 835 horsepower, around 17,800 RPM in race trim, and it can climb toward 900 with qualifying modes. But here's the part that matters. It's not the most powerful engine on the grid. BMW can outgun it, and Ferrari still crushes the season. Because Ferrari built an engine that delivers its performance every single weekend, like it's clocking in for work. And that reliability becomes psychological warfare. Rivals don't just have to beat Ferrari, they have to beat Ferrari, while Ferrari never trips over its own shoes. And this is the part where the Schumacher engine story becomes real. Schumacher didn't need a motor that scared him. He needed a motor that freed him, a predictable power curve, clean pickup, confidence that when he asks for throttle at corner exit, he gets the same answer every time. Because that's how he drives. Aggressive, precise, relentless. Not one heroic lap, 50 brutal laps. Okay, quick one. Then we keep rolling. Do you like this kind of deep dive? Subscribe. That's it. Let's go. Now, 2003 is where the story gets interesting again, because Ferrari does something that looks boring from the outside, but is actually genius. They don't rush the new engine and car out immediately. They start the season with older, proven stuff, while the new package gets finished properly. That's confidence, that's discipline. And when the new engine shows up, the Tipo 052, it's not just more power, it's deeper integration, engine and chassis working as one structural unit, more attention to center of gravity and weight distribution. The engine becomes part of the car's stiffness story. Ferrari claims around 845 horsepower at 18,300 RPM, and depending on the season and settings, you're in that near 900 club everyone's chasing. But again, Ferrari's advantage isn't that they have a magic number, It's that they built an engine that can actually be used, because in that era, peak power is easy. Sustained performance is hard. Then 2004 arrives, and if 2002 was the turning point, 2004 is the victory lap. A new rule: the engine has to last the entire weekend. Practice, qualifying, race. No swapping without penalties. A lot of teams hate this because it punishes the old mindset of turn it up and hope. Ferrari smiles, because Ferrari has already been designing like this. The 2004 engine, Tipo 053, is built for durability without giving up performance. The numbers are crazy. Roughly 865 horsepower in race trim, around 18,300 RPM, with qualifying modes pushing toward the low 900s at around 19,000 RPM. And they keep it alive. That's the part that should honestly freak you out, because building an engine that can hit those revs is hard. Building an engine that can hit those revs repeatedly, all weekend. All season without falling apart? That's not horsepower, that's engineering culture. And this is where Ferrari becomes something else entirely. They're not just fast, they're inevitable. The car wins 15 out of 18 races. That doesn't happen because you have the best engine. It happens because you have an engine that lets the rest of the team operate like a machine. Strategy gets cleaner, risk drops, drivers can push, pit wall can plan. The car becomes predictable. The engine becomes the foundation for domination. Now 2005, and here's the plot twist that makes this story not just a victory parade. The FIA tightens the screws again. Engines must last 2 weekends. Ferrari builds the Tipo 055 to survive it. Race trims still around the mid-800 horsepower range. Qualifying modes pushing into the 930-ish neighborhood depending on how hard you dare to run it. And the engine does its job, but Ferrari doesn't win. Why? Because Formula One isn't just engines. This is the year tires change everything. The rules punish tire changes, Bridgestone struggles, and Ferrari's whole ecosystem takes a hit. And this matters for your video because it proves something important. Even a great engine can't save a broken package. But look at what the engine does in 2005. It still survives, it still delivers, it still performs. Ferrari forgot how to build engines story. It's proof that Ferrari's V10 program was so mature by then that even in a bad year, the engine wasn't the embarrassment. It was one of the few parts still doing what it was built to do. So when people talk about the Ferrari Schumacher era, they picture the red car, the wins, the celebration, the dominance. But the engine story is actually more interesting than that, because it's not a story of a monster engine that crushed everyone. It's a story of a team that learned discipline. From the Tipo 046's early awkwardness, to the 047 and 048 chasing RPM, to the crucial 90-degree shift with the 049, to the weight-saving 050, to the 051 becoming the reliable foundation, to the 052 integrating deeper into the chassis, to the 053 surviving new rules while still making insane power, to the 055 enduring 2 weekends in an era that was trying to slow everyone down. This isn't one engine. It's a decade-long lesson in how to build a winning engine family, and Schumacher's fingerprint is all over it. Not because he demanded more horsepower, but because he demanded something Ferrari wasn't famous for back then. A car and engine you can trust. That's how you turn talent into titles. That's how you go from almost to unfair. And that's why the Ferrari V10s of 1996 to 2005 aren't just powerful. They're one of the cleanest examples of a motorsport team evolving in real time, cutting weight, refining response, improving durability, and building an engine that didn't just win races, it built an empire. If you want the next deep dive, same era, same emotion, but a totally different story, tell me what you want. BMW's peak V10 years, Renault's wild concepts, or the most underrated engine nobody talks about. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.